Welcome back to the Tony Bruno Show with Harry Mays on Sirius XM 211.
We're back. It's Sirius XM 211. Tony Bruno, Harry Mays, Miss Robin, the whole cast of characters. We're all socially distanced. We all take our temperatures. We all have the sanitary stuff going on. It's safe down here. We're in our own bubble. Not the NBA bubble, not the NFL bubble, not the bubble room down in Florida. Adam Schefter's in his bubble room, looking clean. He's all jacked up. He must be working hard, lifting weights, not only because he's the ESPN's NFL expert, because he's an NBA expert as well.
That's right.
As we have learned here exclusively on the Tony Bruno Show. Adam, I didn't realize you were a big-time basketball guy.
Yeah, Tony, I like living in bubbles, and so that becomes something of a diversion for me. And I happen to love the NBA. I basically got into it by playing fantasy basketball. I still have a fantasy basketball team and a fantasy basketball league at ESPN. It's kind of like my hobby. You know, some people like to golf, some people like to garden, some people like to travel. I like to play fantasy basketball and fantasy golf, too, by the way.
And these guys play fantasy golf.
Exactly.
By the way, I'll give you a pick this weekend in Memphis down there at the 3M. You want a lock?
Memphis is the next week.
No, 3M in Minnesota.
Minnesota.
That's out there at TPC Twin Cities. That's why it's in Minnesota. Patrick Rogers in the top 10.
Stanford guy.
Yep. And the guy
really?
we saw.
Why do you say that?
I just think he's been playing well. He's under the radar. I'm not talking about winning. I'm talking about, in the
like
top 20 finish. And the other guy that I like, Paul Casey.
That's my pick.
Paul Casey is a lock this week.
Paul Casey didn't even make the cut last week.
I know.
That's okay.
That's because he had an 8 on one hole, a par 3,
Yes.
put it in the water twice.
He likes the bent grass, my sources tell me,
Yeah.
up at the TPC in Twin Cities. You're not getting this kind of knowledge.
Patrick Rogers finished 18th last week,
Mm-hmm.
right? That was his first top 20 finish since last June, the Charles Schwab Challenge. So actually, he's gone 14, 76. He's been pretty good this year. But 18 was a high finish last week.
Yeah, but we're talking about top 20.
Good.
Yeah, we're talking about top 20, not winning it.
Right.
But I'll tell you, the guy is Dylan Fratelli, the guy that wanted to meet Jack Nicklaus. You remember when he was playing this past weekend?
South African guy.
The South African Dylan Fratelli.
Texas.
And he's been playing well. Put him in the top 10. So I'm giving you some locks here.
Wow.
Well, how's your track record here, Tony?
This is the first time I'm trying.
He has no track record.
I just look at other people and I say, I'm gonna. I do a. It's like you remember the old UPI and then the college football poll and the AP college, and then you do the combination of the two. That's how you get the BCS standings. So I'm using a group, and then I'm compiling it and picking out the best picks. That's how I'm doing it.
Tony, last weekend in the Memorial, in my golf tournament, I was in my DFS tournament, I was in first place until the last hole. Last hole. And Henrik Norlander, who was on my team, bogeyed while Keith Mitchell birdied, and the person right behind me beat me by a point and a half. And I finished second amongst thousands of people in my DFS golf tournament.
Now, what did that cost you, though?
What did it cost me?
No, I mean, what kind of a loss? Was that a huge loss, or was it a partial loss? Were you able to get over it and pick yourself up and come back for this weekend?
That should have been.
I'm still recovering from that loss.
That should have been on SVP's Bad Beats segment.
I know that's a bad
on
beat.
Sunday night.
Did Scott do it on Bad Beats in your name and your honor?
I'm just telling you, Henrik Norlander cost me a lot of money when he bogeyed 18 on Sunday.
You never bet those Nordic guys.
Those Swedes.
You know what I'm saying? We're talking with the great. See, I didn't even know this. You see what we're learning? Now,
Exactly.
I know you do. I know about the NBA because you did a podcast with an NBC guy, Tom Haberstroh, talking about, and you love the 76ers, even though they're not your team or your town, right?
Yeah. No, I think they're in a good position this year. I love Shake Milton, who's on my fantasy basketball team. I picked him up back in February, right when there was some injuries at the position, and I had the guy when it took off. So I like him, and they should be using the guy at point guard. He can make shots. He's a playmaker. You move Ben Simmons to power forward like they're doing. Look, you put your best players on the floor. Shake Milton is one of their best players. He's really good.
You know, all these Sixer podcasts, the Trust the Process guys are all going to call you now, want you on their podcast as a guest to talk about the greatness.
Let me tell you something right now. I cannot believe how many requests I've gotten during this quarantine. Like it is every single day. I can't do it anymore. Like I try never to say no. I can't take it anymore. It's just been crazy.
I hear you, man. I mean, we appreciate you coming on. This is your second appearance, but we've been on for a couple of months, and I know you're overwhelmed, and that's why we always, give you a couple days and say, hey, if you can pop on, because we know we appreciate it, and I love you, Adam. So this is a podcast, where we're talking only Sixers, and we haven't even gotten to football yet.
I know.
You and I go back a ways, and you were amongst the very first people to ever put me on the radio. So in a way, as much as I didn't want to do this today, I'm indebted to you.
Well, thank you.
Was that when he was at the Denver Post?
Yeah, he was at the Denver, not the Denver. Was it the Post? No, what was the paper in Denver?
Well, I was at the Rocky Mountain News. From
Rocky Mountain News, that's right.
And then the Denver Post. Okay. Yeah, I was at both papers.
Not Rocky Mountain Oysters. That's a different place up there.
But I don't know, what years were you putting me on back then?
That had to be when I was at, because you weren't working for ESPN. I was at Fox, I believe. So that had to be 2000. Because when were you the president of the Pro Football Writers Association of America?
Yeah, that would have been like in the mid to late 90s. Sam Batesh was your producer.
Exactly right. Another Philly guy, Sam Batesh.
Really?
Yes. Did you know that, Adam?
The great Sam Batesh. What's Sam Batesh doing these days?
He's still out in L.A. Roaming around producing. I think he's
nice guy.
I think he's working with Colin Cowherd on his show. If the last time we saw him in New York at a convention a couple of years ago.
Because we've had about everybody on that you've worked with in the past.
Exactly. Right. That's how I get guests.
So Tony's grandfather, like, honestly, I've never said no to people. I'm at the point now where I have to say no. I just can't. I can't do it. And so Tony texted me. I saw it. I meant to get back to him. I just didn't have time. And then he texted me again, yo, as if to say, what's up? So here I am.
By the way, Sam Batesh now is a senior director at CBS Sports headquarters. How about that?
Man.
Out in
Whoa,
L.A.
Sam Batesh.
Yeah, he's another guy with great hair. Another guy. I think he's from Atlanta. I think he grew up in the Atlantic City area as well, down at the Jersey Shore, just like our producer and our intern here. It's amazing, man. The
good for the great Sam Batesh, right? I didn't even know that.
I didn't know that either. We just saw him. Last time I saw him, he was working with Colin Cowherd. What the hell's going on out there?
Sam Batesh was going to be the featured guest in our segment today. I had no idea.
Hey, book Sam for tomorrow. I want to talk. I want to get somebody from CBS on.
What'd you talk with Adam about? Well, Patrick Rogers and Sam Batesh.
I never would have guessed that. Of all the things you were going to talk about, we talked about Patrick Rogers, Henrik Norderlander, and Sam Batesh. And Shake Milton.
Yes,
Shake Milton. Right. Nobody's talking about Shake Milton in Orlando today, but we're talking about him on this show. All right, the NBA bubble, because there's action today. Last time we talked at him, everybody was down in the dumps, and certainly there was a good reason, and there's still concerns out there. But now you fast forward a couple of months since we last had you on, and the NFL, even though the players, to their credit, they used their leverage over the weekend to force the NFL owners to do a jump, and they said how high, and then they jumped higher. And now, of course, they're not going to have a preseason game. That's the big story that we obviously we're talking about yesterday. No preseason games at all in the NFL, Adam. So obviously the coaches can't like that, and obviously there's going to be a lot of players who aren't going to make rosters now, and there'll be people out of work.
But that's the way it is, Tony, during a pandemic, right? The NFL had free agency without visits, and it got through it. And then it had the draft where there were no pre-draft interviews, and everyone was in their homes. It was done virtually. And now we're in a situation where there are going to be no preseason games. And you know what? It is unfortunate. And there are hundreds of players. Unfortunately, they're not going to get the opportunity that they've worked for their entire career this summer. It's not going to happen. Again, unfortunate, but this is what we're all dealt with. Everybody's got to deal with something right now, right? What are you going to do? I just hope we have football for the season. That if we could just play the games, great. I'm not worried about the guy that's trying to catch on as an undrafted free agent. Tough spot for him. Tough spot for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Now, but what about as far as the first couple of games of the regular season? I mean, with no preseason games, they're not even allowed to scrimmage with other teams. Like the Eagles would bring in the Patriots or the Ravens.
Those split practices.
Yeah, they do those split practices. So there's no contact between anybody. And so how ugly will the first couple of games of the regular season become?
I think the brand of football that you're used to seeing will be a notch below what we've seen in other years. I think it usually opens the season that way, but we all love the sport so much that believe me, it's okay. But I think this year it could be the product even more diminished than it's been in previous opening years. But again, what I would say to that is that's the time we're living in. And as long as we have the games, they can play whatever diminished product they want. I don't really care. We'll be happy to see diversion, a form of entertainment on Sundays and Mondays and Thursdays. And by the way, if there's no college football, who knows? Maybe Fridays and Saturdays too.
Adam Schefter, ESPN, NFL, and NBA, and golf analyst.
That's right.
I mean, you can basically... Who knew is right. And this is why, people didn't like fantasy sports. It's gambling, but that's what you got to do. Harry does fantasy. I don't play fantasy sports. I play reality sports. I mean, that's the way I've always been. I just like to keep it real. As someone
Tony, you're missing out. You're missing out. I'm just telling you, for a $3 bet, like a $3 DFS golf bet, it changes your entire weekend. I'm just telling you.
He's right. He's exactly. I've been trying to tell you this for years.
$3?
You don't want to listen to me.
$3?
$3. You can get in a contest on DraftKings for $3.
And the $3 for $3, that is the best $3 of entertainment. Listen, I don't mean to be pitching the product, but I'm just telling you, $3 worth of entertainment. Tony, you spend $3 on a cafe latte. Okay?
No, I make my own. I don't go to Starbucks.
DFS golf lineup.
All right, now you got me hooked on golf, and not hooked on phonics. So I did that a long time ago. That's how I got into the business. Now, Harry, one of the other things that's going to be very, very interesting in the National Football League. What's going to happen to Tom Brady and the Patriots now?
Right.
And will this affect their Super Bowl not being able to play any the Bucs, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah.
Will this affect their rhythm when they get out there for their first game down in Tampa with the expectations high?
Well, I thought Tony just broke some news that Tom Brady went back to New England.
They may have, for all we know, how crazy the world has been.
I'm like, wow, I missed something here. When did Tom Brady go back to New England? But he's down in Tampa. It's interesting because I think it's almost at this point a little anticlimactic or a little off to talk about storylines that otherwise would be dominating the NFL world. If everything were normal right now, which we know it's not, I think we'd be filled with Tom Brady and the Buccaneers conversation. Even to talk about it feels a little odd to me because as much as we hope and think that there's going to be a season, we don't know that there's going to be a season. And so we're talking about something that may not even be. And so it's odd to me, but he is the greatest quarterback of all time, and he is playing for Tampa, and it is an incredibly intriguing situation. But it doesn't feel real. Like the NFL season is scheduled to open 50 days from today. The league is scheduled to kick off 50 days from tonight. Wow. And so do you feel that energy and excitement and adrenaline right now?
No,
I don't.
I don't, but I feel hopeful because we're seeing these other sports. Soccer down in Florida.
Yeah.
The MLS is back. They've been playing golf just a few weeks ago. We were worried about caddies testing positive, and they were going to shut everything down. So the smart thing they did is they kept the spectators. They were going to add spectators. They didn't do that. So I think when you're talking about these major sports organizations who have gazillions of dollars, they're definitely doing all they can to protect the players, and the spectators just won't have to be there. So it's going to be on TV anyway. That's how we watch and play fantasy anyway. We're watching it on TV. We don't have to go to the game or the golf course to sit out and find out who you bet on. So I think the sports that are going to go on and the players are going to be protected better than anybody else out there, the so-called essential workers. They're getting better protection than the truck drivers and the people working in grocery stores. So I think we don't, as much as we worry and care about everybody, I'm not worried about the pro leagues taking care of their high asset talent. Are you?
No, I'm worried about Henrik Norlander parring 18, but I'm not bitter at all about that.
No, not at all. Wait, how much would you have won if he didn't bogey? What was the big difference?
A lot more.
A lot more than what?
He doesn't disclose that kind of information.
We're not talking about we're not talking about lottery. We're not talking about hitting the lottery or having Terry Bradshaw show up at your house with a $7,000
with a cardboard check.
Yeah, for every week for the rest of your life.
Tony, on a $3 DFS lineup, that lack of a par cost me basically four figures.
4 figures.
How about that?
$12.50 for a $3 bet.
Yeah. How about that?
Somebody's saying the one thing about playing fantasy sports is you don't talk about gambling on fantasy. It's like Fight Club.
Fight
You
Club,
just
yeah.
don't talk about how much you
But,
won.
but here's the thing. Like the money, I don't care. Like I wanted to win first.
Yeah.
Like I wanted my
Okay.
first DFS golf championship.
Do you get a trophy for that? Do you get a
Bragging
birthday-
rights.
No.
You
Bragging
don't get any
rights.
kind of like little tin cup of some kind, or you don't go to a trophy store in Bristol, Connecticut, and have a little trophy made with your name on here, DFS golf champion, ESPN.
I'm not. I haven't been to Bristol since March. I don't even know the next time I'll be in there. I mean, I'm not allowed back in Bristol. Like Connecticut's blocked out everybody.
But no, you know who's allowed up there? Matt Vasgersian and A-Rod will be
A-Rod.
doing the baseball game Thursday night, the first game, sitting up there in the studio, separated, doing the game that will be played in Washington.
And Buster will be in Washington
And Buster
on the
Olney
field.
will be down in D.C.
Well, I look forward to the day I get back to Bristol and get to see my colleagues. Like I said, I'm living in this bubble here that involves a wife and 20-year-old son and 11-year-old girl. And that's my bubble here, and it feels like you barely get to see anybody else besides that.
Well, I hear you, but one thing I've never heard anybody say, I can't wait to get back to Bristol. I don't think I've ever heard anybody. And listen,
I
was
can't
there
wait to get back to Bristol.
I was there for 10 years, so listen, I used to love making the ride, and I missed the Otis elevator test shaft right
Tony,
across the street.
when's the last time you were back there?
Back to Bristol? Oh, God. A long time. We did the 25th anniversary show for ESPN Radio, Keith Olbermann, Chuck Wilson, and I, but we did it from New York City because they didn't want to pay us to go up there, so they put us in the studio in New York at the ESPN studios up there, the ESPN radio station, and we did it there, and we recorded it, and then they ran it on ESPN Radio.
When was that, like 2015?
Nah, that was a couple years ago. Yeah,
Okay.
whenever the 25th anniversary.
But when was the last time you were back in Bristol?
It's got to be,
itself?
God, in the 90s.
In the
When I
90s.
left, 1999.
Wow.
You wouldn't recognize the campus if you saw it.
I've seen video and stuff. Yeah, I remember when it was just the one building, and then they had the little one in the back where we had ESPN2 and all the
And a couple of satellite dishes.
You wouldn't recognize it.
That's what I hear. I see it. Listen, I love my time at ESPN. It's one of the greatest parts of my entire career. I mean, working there and helping to start ESPN Radio and working with all the great people. I mean, and I was there before you were there, and then all of a sudden we were both there. And now I'm not there, and you're there. And then Harry's here, and I'm here. And
Wait, were you at ESPN at the same time at all, Tony? No.
I don't think so. No, because that's right. When I was talking to you when you were the president of the Pro Football Writers, I think I was working for Sporting News or Fox. And so you
were working for Fox at that time.
I was with Andrew
working for
Siciliano
one
doing
of the Denver newspapers.
That's right. I was working with Andrew at Fox, and then we would have Adam on every week talking football. Good
Andrew
stuff.
Siciliano, right?
Yeah, you remember him, right? A Syracuse guy.
Yeah,
and
another
there's
Syracuse
Too many
guy.
Syracuse guys in the business, and you got to do something to stop this. I just think it's a problem, and I think it's affecting the way broadcasting is conducted right now. In the last thing on the NFL, and Adam Schefter with us, is they're going to play. There's going to be games. There's going to be the Hall of Fame game. We hope. Now, what about the Hall of Fame game? They canceled that.
They canceled all the preseason.
I know that. But what if the first game on September 10th, the Thursday night game?
Chiefs, Texans, I
right.
believe.
We know the rookies are in. We know about all the protocol. The rookies have to quarantine 5 days of testing and all that other stuff. Can you see right now, and again, we don't know what's going to happen in a month from now, a scenario where that game is not played on that Thursday night, September 10th?
Yeah, of course. I mean, anything's possible. Again, the league is planning to play the game. It intends to play the game. It wants to play the game. It's determined to play the game. But can you say that game is going to go off? I don't know.
Well, how am I going to bet on it on a future line? How am I going to – that line's going to move.
Yep.
And now you got me hooked on gambling. I was not a gambling guy until you came on here and started talking about Shake Milton in your fantasy basketball league and all these other golfers that no one's ever heard of except guys like Harry Mays who plays every day.
Well, Harry, who do you like this week?
I took Paul Casey, but I'm not. I had Dustin Johnson last week. He shot 80 and missed the cut. So who knows? But Adam, I'm wondering if you think the team in Washington will have a new nickname by the time the season starts.
Yes, I expect that to happen. It's difficult. They're on the fast track.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a lot of things to deal with right now, that organization.
Yeah,
but
right.
I think that. Yeah, I mean, what are they going to do? They're going to start the season being called the Washington NFL team? the Washington TBDs?
The interesting thing is that there's Darren Ravel today talked about the XFL when they folded. The one thing they didn't keep was the trademark to the Washington's team. They were the defenders, were they not?
Defenders, yeah.
The Washington defenders, and that could have been, the Washington former Redskin team can now take that name and not have to worry about it if that's one of the teams, if that's one of the names that they wanted to keep. Are you surprised that the XFL didn't keep some of the trademarks of the teams that they had?
I don't know enough about how trademarks work to make an educated comment there, but I know there's one attorney in the Washington area trademarked a bunch of names. And
we had him on. We had the guy on who had all 44 names, but he said to us that he wasn't doing it to make money, and he was having fun with it. And, by the way, he also told us that Washington, they don't have to do anything to get those. They don't have to pay him. He's not suing them. He could take any of the names that he has if they want to go through the trademark transfer process. So it wasn't a guy who everybody thought initially was, a guy who was just trying to grift off the Washington team knowing that they're eventually going to change their name. He was a guy who sounded pretty honest that they could take whatever name they want. I can't stop him. But if it's not a name that's on the list of his trademarks,
then they have to go through
the process, which means that they won't be able to start the season with a name unless they get expedited delivery, from the trademark office. And I don't know whether they do that or not.
Well, again, it's a lot of legal stuff there that's above my pay grade.
It's purview now. Come on, it's purview. Pay grade doesn't work anymore. Purview is the term now.
Is that right?
Yes.
My purview?
Yeah, you know where I heard that from? I heard Governor Murphy of New Jersey. He said, that's above my purview. And a lot of people, purview, that means that's above your pay grade. It just sounds more educated when you say, that's above my purview.
You know what? From now on, I will eliminate the term pay grade from my vocabulary, and I'll say, that's above my purview.
Purview. Thank you, Adam. That's great, great stuff, man. Last quick note. The story that's flying around today is that Woody Johnson, the Jets owner, now the New York Times is after him about not just being the ambassador to Britain and trying to get the British Open in Turnberry in Scotland a couple of years ago, which didn't happen, by the way, but supposedly making comments in the past about women, allegedly racist and sexist comments. How far do you think this is going to go?
Well, again, whenever there's any hint of this, and there obviously are strong hints here and strong allegations, people are going to go after that. And so Woody Johnson's going to be under major investigation. Everybody's going to be looking into his past and trying to dig up what they can on him. And if there's anything there, people are going to do everything they can to find out what it is.
I'm sure the Jets fans are trying to do that. Trying to do that to the Knicks owner, Dolan. Everybody wants owners out of the way. Dan Snyder, Woody Johnson, and, of course, the Dolans.
James Dolan.
Dolan with the New York.
These guys are making it easy.
Yes, they are. Right. You're absolutely right about that. Adam, thank you so much, man. I know you've been running ragged, and I really appreciate you coming on. By the way, once again, great job with the book from last year about your family and all that stuff you're going through. It's an amazing read. Robin was breaking down reading it the other day.
Yeah, I mean, I have a stepfather who's been in my life since I was very young, and reading that and just the way you honored your son's biological father who passed away in 9/11 is just amazing.
The Man I Never Met.
Yeah.
Great book. Great. I recommend everybody reads it if you haven't already. The Man I Never Met. It's not a sports book. It's a life book. And it's great work by Adam Schefter. Adam, thank you so much, brother. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Tony, Harry, Robin, thank you very much. I got to go figure out my DFS golf line.
There you go.
I already gave you a couple of locks. I've done Dylan Fratelli and Patrick Rogers in the top 20. And, yes, I agree, Paul Casey to win it all, plus 2,500.
Now, don't mush me now.
I'm not mushing you, Harry. I'm always right. I told you John Rahm, and you wouldn't listen last week. Tried to tell you that. Adam Schefter, how great is that? Let's give him a roaring round of applause.
Yes, and the actual definition for purview